Part 5 of JoJo is hands down my favorite part to be adapted yet. It all goes back to how the Passione gang is some of the most well-crafted characters that this series has ever seen. Now, this video is going to be a leftist analysis of this part. And I don't necessarily think Araki is a communist, but for the purposes of this video, I will be analyzing it from a Marxist perspective. So let's talk about fate and what I think it means in JoJo. In a way, I think it's about progress. And as Paul Cockshot kind of paraphrased in his video on historical progress, the idea of progress is fundamental to politics. You can't define progress unless you consider direction to history. In this case, direction you could think of as fate. In essence, I think you can take a historical materialism lens to look very closely at the conflict between Giorno and Diavolo. The villain Diavolo being an exploitive scumbag who would use anyone to further his own individual gains, and his ability King Crimson, which literally deletes time and work to skip to results of exploiting others, compared to Giorno and his golden experience, which basically breathes life into things. It's the definition of progress here. But let's take a step back, because I want to talk about Giorno. Like I said, some of the most well-crafted characters, and I think we need to look at why Giorno is the best JoJo. And it goes back to his origin of birth. Being the son of Dio, this character has a lot going on. Because Dio had the body of Jonathan, he is a JoJo. I'm gonna be honest, I really liked Dio before he put on the mask. He was a sympathetic villain. His backstory was he was abused by his father, lived in abject poverty, and he just got a really bad hand in life. So it's did he deserve to become the pure form of evil after he put on the mask? It's kind of tragic in a way, I think. Though, I think we can all agree that once he became corrupted, he is just the worst person ever and deserves to be ran over by a tractor constantly. But Giorno is not like that. He has a similar backstory. He was beat by his dad, that kind of thing. His mother didn't even love him. He spent most of his time alone, trembling. Something that wasn't really that much in the anime as much, but in the manga, you could see him trembling still. There's only one moment in Giorno's life that completely changes the trajectory of him becoming evil, just like Dio. And that is when he encounters a gangster and decides to use his golden experience ability unconsciously to save his life. This gangster would forever be grateful for this kid and would do anything he could to protect him from bullies and make his life a little bit better. And this is when he would adopt the dream of becoming a gangstar, rejecting the essence of Dio and more becoming like the other JoJo's. But we need to talk about what makes Giorno quite a bit different from the other JoJo's. And to do that, we're going to have to explain the philosophy of the other JoJo's. Luckily, a great YouTuber, Soccer Tetris, has already described what defines the ethical and social philosophy of the JoJo's. I highly recommend you check out this video, but I'm about to summarize this philosophy. Soccer Tetris points out that the JoJo's all have a similar philosophy to the real-life martial art philosophy of Zhang Hu. This philosophy developed out of martial art communities tied by strong individuals. You could say every JoJo is one of these strong individuals tied together. It was learned to create and control violence to a non-violent end. It's a form of resistance that is not revolutionary. As Soccer Tetris pointed out, Zhang Hu was a small counterculture, saying, "We will not interfere, but don't interfere with us either." Let's look at all the JoJo's and think about the villains that are in their respective parts. For example, in part 1, Dio is the invader, and Jonathan is only defending. Jonathan is trying to revert things back to the status quo before Dio came into his life. In part 2, we have the Pillarmen, which obviously are the aggressors trying to take over the entire world. Part 3, Dio returns. Part 4, a serial killer. You have to stop that. But Giorno's a bit different. He's the one who has the dream. He's the one who wants to invade the Mafia and take it over. In a sense, Giorno realizes that the status quo is corrupt, and he wants to revert it back to zero. But this isn't to say that since Giorno is a revolutionary, he doesn't believe in the philosophy of Zhang Hu. Quite the opposite. It's because that he's partially a JoJo that he looks up so much to that one gangster he saved earlier, the one who protected him. He sees him as a vigilante, protecting real justice, unlike the police who don't actually protect the weak, and politicians who are corrupt in Italy. He sees the Mafia as a bastion of hope and real justice, and that's why he has the dream of becoming a gangstar. This is, of course, before he sees how the Mafia actually works, and how they're also corrupt, and the boss is pure evil, exploiting other people with a drug trade. But I think Giorno looks at the Mafia, and he sees how there's the potential for these strong individuals tied in a community. He sees it, and he's like, I'm going to take that over, and that's going to be my sense of justice. And he wants to do that for other people as well. Take, for example, Trish Una, the daughter of the boss. He develops this philosophy of Zhang Hu, this revolutionary version of it, in order to change the status quo but also to keep it stable once he finally takes over the Mafia at the end. And this is why I like him so much. Unlike the other JoJo's who are a bit more like passive, he's going out there, he's getting things done. While the other parts of JoJo are a bit brutal too. The stands go... And they're definitely like, they're dead, right? Well, this part's a lot more gangster, obviously. People get riddled with bullet holes, and... It's so much more fun. Like all the villains, their efforts are useless. Progress will go on, despite anyone's efforts. But let's talk about some of the other members of Passione before I move on to the main antagonists, because they're all really cool. A reason that Giorno doesn't like believe in the police or anything, is more tied to the Mafia, is obviously because the police are corrupt too. I mean, when you look at the backstory of Abacchio, where it just talks about the contradictions of the police. They're supposed to risk their lives for the masses. That's what he thought, that they were a strong sense of justice. Yet, there are so many contradictions. I mean, one, of course, all cops are bastards, and they're there to protect the state, of course. And there is some element of police, which you do need to, like, root out actual scumbags. But that's not how it works in Italy, of course. They're taking bribes and releasing people just because they have a bit more money once they commit crimes. And literally no one's grateful for it. Bacchio's line of work is less glamorous than even the Mafia. So Bucciarati approached him and is like, dude, come on. The ends isn't important here, but how you get there. And if you're trying to get there through the police force, bro, don't die bound by the past. Bacchio is so fucking cool, by the way. Like his stand, Moody Blues, he's just stuck in a constant loop thinking about that sin he committed of taking a bribe. He just can't get over it. And it's just so cool to see him redeemed. He reflected on so much, but he was able to move on and continue on a journey of believing in a true sense of justice. You only need to read our post on Stain to know why we think Abacchio is the coolest. From believing in this arbitrary form of justice and seeking redemption through Bucciarati's gang, as just this lawless gangster doing what actually needs to be done. Narancia is one of the more naive characters, and he learns the hard truth in his backstory. For a second, he put friendship above all else. But after he was backstabbed by his own gang, he realized that those with power are the ones who win. He lost hope completely after having been betrayed, released from prison, with a horrible eye condition, similar to the disease his mom died from. He thought he was bounded by fate to be doomed, to be completely alone and left to die. Ironically, it was Fugo who saved him, who would later abandon him. I don't know why. Fugo's literally the worst character in the show, but okay. No problem, Fugo. Thanks for saving Narancia one time. Narancia's growth is learning that power can be used to protect other people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be for exploiting others. When they became traitors, Narancia was conflicted. He almost didn't even get on the boat, considering, is this even worth it? Is putting my life on the line worth it? Should I betray the boss? And he realized, yes. Trish was a lot like him. They have a very similar backstory, and he realized he was going to use his own power to protect them. Protect the Passione and Trish. He's probably Narancia's like, he didn't deserve what he got. Narancia's one of the saddest characters, I'd say, in JoJo. Narancia, a character who had lost all hope, conflicted about if he should join Passione again. I think Narancia is easily one of my favorite characters in this part. And I didn't think about it before recording the script, but he realized that he could use power to protect the things he valued, the friendship. He realized that the boss, he would do everything he could to take him down and beat him, even if it meant his life. I really didn't think about how his backstory and fate like tied into his character, but he really did not deserve what he got. And that brings us to Mista's backstory. If Narancia's now my favorite, Mista's still the fucking coolest. His backstory, of course, is fate can't kill him. It's not his time yet. He went about his life philosophy as, you know, he's just gonna take it as it goes. Lays about, he doesn't care about anything. One day he stumbles upon a girl being raped, and he decides, I'm gonna stand up for her. They put like 3 guns on him and start shooting at him, and every single bullet misses. I guess he tapped into his stand ability already, and he just shoots 4 bullets at him, all dead. I don't know where the 4th bullet went, but I guess that's just his unlucky number now. Mista really like is the glue of this entire part. When you think about it, after that Rolling Stones part, right, he's just there. He can only watch fate unfold. The amount of people he has to lose is quite hard to deal with. So I'm now editing the video, and I think I forgot to insert the part where this thematically ties into the video. So what makes Mista so cool is how much resolve he demonstrates. Even, like, no matter what fate rolls at him, he just goes at it and just demonstrates more willpower, more resolve than like any of the characters besides maybe Giorno. And we see this in episode 19 when he fights Giacchio. Probably my favorite fight in the entire show this season. And this has some really great key animation by Hironori Tanaka. And Giacchio is voiced by Akamoto Nobuhiko, who does Bakugo and Accelerator. Literally the best voice for this scene. It's coolest fight. And that's the resolve we need to demonstrate as leftists when it comes to fate and progress. Demonstrate that much. I'll get to the big honcho Bicharti, but first, it's time to talk about the worst villain ever, JoJo. And I mean, like, if Dio was evil, this guy is the devil. Diavolo has no value of collective. He's completely individualist. He doesn't care about anyone. Even his split personality, Doppio, he doesn't give a crap about Doppio. Doppio could die for all he cares, and he wouldn't shed a single tear. His own body, gone. Whatever. Requiem, new body, don't give a fuck. And his goal as the boss is basically to make this mafia to grow infinitely in a limited environment. How can he make this drug trade, this free market of drugs, grow and expand and exploit others? He doesn't care if it breaks people, he doesn't care at all. And we see in Bicharti, it was probably the most touched by the drug trade personally, since it caused the death of his father. And he didn't realize it either. He didn't realize that the mafia, he joined the mafia so he could fight against this thing that killed his father, until he realized that what he joined was actually the culprit and the one who was perpetuating this system. And this is when Bicharti calls the most repulsive form of evil, the one that exploits innocent people who don't know anything. Now I was serious for a minute, but I'm gonna drop a meme on you guys. So when you think about Bicharti's father, who took these kids on a boat, and he witnessed a drug trade, so they had to like shoot him multiple times. By a miracle, he somehow survived that. But they came back to kill him later. And when you think about it, Bicharti's dad was about to get Epsteined. Some politician, it could be Trump, Clinton, some big prince or anything, any other big figure, could have just called up Chikalto and been like, hey, I need you to assassinate this guy, he knows about our trafficking. I'm memeing about this cabal of like pedophiles, but this is no joke. This is what people of power do, whether it be a drug trade, sex trafficking. This does happen. And funnily enough, Doppio, the other personality of Diavolo, I mean, there's multiple theories of how this works, but my opinion, or at least for the sake of this argument, I'd say Diavolo is his stand, and his stand is completely corrupt. He's not even aware of his stand possessing so much influence over him and exploiting him. And the main body of Doppio, for all intents and purposes, is like 15 when you think about it. Diavolo obviously doesn't care. Like, Doppio just dies at one point and he didn't even notice, does not care at all. And I'll say it again, the most repulsive form of evil, to exploit innocent people who don't know anything. Doppio actually believed in the boss. You could say that Doppio is someone who believes in the system of capitalism as a force of good. Doppio is completely unaware that the system that he is backing up, the boss who he supports, is evil. He has no idea. So let's talk about how King Crimson works. Because there's this meme where no one understands how King Crimson works, but it just works. And then there's also a picture of communism. Everyone understands how it works, but it just doesn't. And completely false. This is high school textbooks leave so much out about communism that like literally no one knows how it works at all. And the point of King Crimson is to erase the past. Like, his end goal is to have it so that he can reign over everyone and exploit them. He would erase the fact that he exploited them. They would be completely unaware. The boss complains about Trish as his only blood relation. And we all know how royalty works. Like, if you have a blood relation, like, that's just another reason to like backstab the other person. And to him, Trish is nothing but someone who's dangerous to his future. As King Crimson says, his past wraps around his true peace. The classic Marxist historical progress model is that it went from like clan society to slave society to feudal society to capitalist society, and from there, hopefully, we go to socialist society. But we need to forget the past of feudal society in order for capitalism to function. We need to forget that initial exploitation. We need to forget the exploitation now under the capitalist system. All that stuff needs to be erased from history. Like, I'm only 21, but it feels like the past is so long ago. Like, it wasn't even a century ago that World War II happened, fascism, Nazis. It wasn't very long ago that people literally shoot at strikers demanding better working rights, just massacres over demanding better conditions. None of these events are that separated from the here and now. The material landscape hasn't changed that much. Time has progressed, but like the material effects of the past are still lingering, and King Crimson wants to erase those actions. And no one can be aware of this. No one can be aware of the devil that is in control, who is the boss. He wants to blend into the background to exploit others. The media doesn't talk that much about the 1% who, as Bernie Sanders would like to say, own more than the bottom half. That's how the boss sees things, and that's what he wants. And we don't want to think about that, right? But of course, Giorno and the Golden Wind is the antithesis to King Crimson. Fortunately, the fate of the people who want to exploit and skip all the hard work, as Oceanus, I think, points out in his hour-long video. I haven't watched that, but I think that's one of his major points, is that Diavolo, in his ability King Crimson, skips all the hard work and right to the point. And if you skip all that, it will come back. Like, Golden experiences so much of a better ability because it is doing the work. And when it gets that Requiem ability, he reverts Diavolo back to zero. And when you revert someone back to zero who only profited off other people by exploiting them, well, suddenly they have no beginning and no end in sight. An infinite loop of death is for those people who only want to exploit others. The Golden Wind is about realizing that some people, there will be sacrifices. There will be people who put their life on the line to protect their values. There is a point where King Crimson's ability is scary, and that is, what if he deletes so much of the past that there's literally nothing to tell? There's no information at all, and we can't tell that we're being exploited. I mean, just look at cyberpunk fiction, and if the capitalist class gets like so much technology and is able to completely dominate us, or say they destroy the Earth entirely through nuclear weapons, that's pretty bad. But the point of Golden Wind is that, assuming fate goes on as it should, that people will realize, hey, I'm not okay with this whole thing where you're taking advantage of me. When people resist, and when they demand better conditions and fight back, that's when we can revert things, as Golden Requiem does, back to zero, to expose the lies, to expose the exploitation, and continue on the line of progress. Fate isn't moving in the direction of single individuals who wield power, it's moving in the direction of the masses. And this is what separates Giorno truly from the other JoJo's, is he doesn't believe in the status quo of corruption and politicians and the police and any of that. He believes in his own destiny. He has his own dream, and his dream is a dictatorship of the proletariat, where the masses rule over the few who would like to end that system. His dream is the mafia, but it actually works for the betterment of people. So those were some relatively scattered thoughts on this part, and I'll probably have to return to this later. There might have been some gaps I missed. Please leave in the comments any thoughts you had. And please share this video with any JoJo fans you have. We're trying to expand our shonen audience. It's mostly just leftists at this point, and YouTube does not really support our channel that much, so shares are very much appreciated. Thank you so kindly, because we have a mission. All of us on this channel share a dream, and that is to educate the masses, to seize the means of production, and to fight for actual progress. I don't want to live in a world where the only way to get by is by erasing the past. History is cool, and so is JoJo.